and welcome to Find It on this Wednesday evening. I'm so glad you're joining us tonight for a power-packed, badass woman show right now. So we are going to discuss tonight with Stephanie Infante, Sheila Steros, and Mindy Dreyer, all about being a mom and all about parenting our children through the stages of life and how we're handling it or not. And before we get started with the full panel of amazing women to talk about this topic, I would like to bring Stephanie Infante up first. Hello, Stephanie.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm super glad you're here. And you guys, Stephanie and I had discussed having her on the show because she does some really cool things that I want to share. But when she and I had a conversation, we thought of a topic like, wow, this is a topic that she and I can identify with about having different perspectives of as our children age and being home with them most generally, and then how things shift and move along as they age and how we handle it or not, sometimes in my case. So I have this shirt on today. I'm a mom. I totally got this.
Love
and
that.
Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. But before we bring everybody else up, I want to give you a few minutes to talk about the foundation that you started and why.
So we started 5 years ago, the Lindy Infante Foundation, in honor of my father-in-law, who was a coach in the NFL. And through the power of sports, it helped change the whole trajectory of his life. So he was a kid who was had the odds stacked against him and lost his mom at a very young age. And father really wasn't in his life. And through an opportunity at the time was only the boys club, which is now known as the Boys and Girls Club. He found the beauty of sports, and that just totally changed everything for him from that day forward. So we knew what the power of sports could do for kids and felt strongly that we wanted to give that opportunity back to the kids here in our community and knew that there was a need. We didn't know how great that need was until we really got involved in it. And as I would say, we were drinking from a fire hose constantly every day because the need was really more tremendous than we realized. But it's been really exciting. I get to work with lots of great community partners and learned a lot just about the community in general of Central Ohio.
So he passed away 5 or 6 years ago, or
7 years ago.
7 years ago now. And so then you, because of his story, that inspired you to start this foundation. Now, was this something that you and your husband Brad thought of, or just you thought of, or how did that come about? Like just reflecting on your father-in-law's life, and then you thought, gosh, we should do something in honor of him, in memory of him.
So I was ready to, my oldest was leaving for college. My middle was going to be a junior in high school, and my youngest was in middle school. And I was just feeling like I was ready to go back to work. And so my husband had said to me, we do a lot of giving through his company. And he was like, maybe you could help me with that and do that. So as we started to look over what a lot of the asks were, for different work in the community, a lot of it revolved around sports. Mm-hmm. So we kind of put our heads together. And, when I first met Lindy and I heard his story, I was like, wow, there's really a powerful story here to tell and what an impact it can make. Well, 3 small kids and, 20 years later, we decided now's the time. Why don't we do this? We called my mother-in-law. We said, we have this idea. What do you think? Wanted her blessing. And she immediately was like, I think this is great. Let's do it. And that was it.
So what areas? Okay. So what areas and how? I see right here, it's lindyinfantefoundation.org. If you are interested in checking this out, please go to that website and check it out. And it services the sports. Sports does create a community. You feel part of something. Exactly. And that's amazing. So I love this foundation and what it stands for. You service just the Columbus area or more areas than that?
So primarily it's Central Ohio, but we also have another piece of the foundation that we started during COVID. We knew we needed to pivot and get sports to kids. So we created Sport in a Bag. And that is a bag full of sports equipment that we take. We've actually taken it all over the state of Ohio and beyond. We've gone as far as Boston with our Sport in a Bag program. So, it's kind of a twofold. We do a little bit of both, but most of the funding that we do to expand sport programming has been primarily in Central Ohio, but we're not limited to just Central Ohio.
Sure. And, this is a huge undertaking. And, just being in it 5 years, my gosh, you're probably just getting your feet under you and really things running well now, where you can feel like maybe you can expand or look at other things. So that's amazing. So I wanted everyone to know what you do, because originally, you guys, it was just Stephanie and I, and then we got to talking about this topic of being a parent, and you have these little babies, and all of a sudden you blink and they're leaving the home, and how do we handle that, and the stages of life, and then after they leave. And so with that, I want to bring the other girls up so we can get started on this topic. So this is Sheila Steros.
Hello.
Hello, Sheila. And this is Mindy Dreyer. Now, Mindy Dreyer is a face a lot of you probably recognize because she's on the news. Mindy, did you get your tooth fixed?
I did. I got my tooth fixed.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I showed up at the radio station and I saw Mindy, and she smiled, and part of her front tooth was missing. And and she was like, oh my gosh. And a dog had, right, Mindy? What happened?
Yeah, head bumped by a dog, and a dog's one of my favorite things in life. And I'm like, of all the things in the world, a dog head butted me. But I can't believe how many people have had that happen to. Like, so many people have stories of, oh, I chipped my tooth then. I did it here. I did it there. I'm like, really? I didn't know it was such a big thing to chip your tooth.
But it made me like, this is so Mindy. This is why I love you. You are so just, you kill me. So we're sitting in the radio station. You're like, well, at least it's on radio. And I said, well, when do you work on Spectrum next? You said Tuesday. This was a Sunday. And she goes, oh, I hope I can get it fixed tomorrow. She didn't. So you went on air. Did you go on
like
air?
This. I was like this. Hi, everybody.
Oh my goodness.
Nice to see everyone.
I mean, because even though she's like a trooper and powered through, who wants to smile real big when half your tooth's gone?
I kept telling you like yours. I'm like, back up. You can back up. You don't have to be that close.
Yeah, I'm trying not to smile so much tonight. So then, so Mindy is radio and news, and then Sheila is starting something. Sheila, I'm so glad you're here too. And Sheila, you are starting something new. If you want to say a little bit about that.
Sure. It's the Olive Branch Caregiving, and I'm looking at the adult parents, my age group, that it's like, how do we know when to intervene with our mom and dads? What signs are there? How do I talk to them? When do I look at caregiving or not caregiving? What safety issues do I have in the home? How can I communicate long distance? And who can watch after my mom when I'm not there? So those are the types of training and education that I'll be building over the next 3 months with an online forum, and then also sessions for hands-on, and even how to have hands-on care at the bedside.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you. That's a beautiful cause. And I love that. So these are the ladies we have selected to have this little convo. So, I have my own story, but a lot of people already know it. I want to pick your brains on this. So I know that I was a stay-home mom. And when my kids got older, all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, my identity are them. Who am I? And it was a whole thing that I was going through to figure out my next steps for myself. So I wanted to talk, okay, Mindy, as you mothered and started having your children, you're a career woman. How did you balance all of that?
I don't know if I'm so much a career woman. I did TV news because it was fun, and I love to talk, and I love to meet people. So that's really why I picked the career. But my mom was always a stay-at-home mom with me. And I always knew that if I were to ever become a mom, that's what I would want to do, because I don't think you appreciate it. You don't appreciate your stay-at-home moms until you become one. You don't realize all the times they're there for you, the tears they wipe, the diapers they change, your noses that they wipe, everything that they do, until you actually get old enough to have your child. And then you think there's nothing more important. I was fortunate enough once my son was born and I was pregnant with him, and I thought, you know what? I've got a new boss now. He's about this old, this big. I could hold in my hands. So as long as I could work on weekend mornings, I was going to stay home all week. So I asked my boss if I could switch my schedule and just do weekend mornings. That way I could anchor the TV news. And you know what? When I was home with the kids all week, it was my way of doing things. And then when my husband would try to do something, I'm like, that's not how we change diapers. That's not how we feed them. So really, it was a beautiful thing, because the little amount of time that I was away from the family on those weekend mornings, I mean, I was home by 11 a.m., 12 noon. So in that little bit of time, he got to bond with the kids with his way of changing the diapers and feeding them and playing for a little bit until I did get home. So it worked out just perfectly.
Yeah, that's really cool. And John Horton says, love this, Deb and crew. Dad of 6, and it's a life changer when they don't need you anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still waiting for that to happen. I was really crying a river when they left, but then I realized, they're kind of still there. They just don't sleep in the house. But so I want to hear, okay, so a different perspective. And then Stephanie, I'm going to come to you, but a different perspective, even more so than all of us combined, is Sheila. Tell us your story about how you dealt with being a career person and your kids and all of that.
Well, when I started the career, I was traveling to Columbus when I had my first, an hour away. And I can remember my supervisor saying, Sheila, you're going to want to be closer to home. And this is when I was pregnant, and I said, really? You sure about that? But then once I had my oldest, and then both parents, my husband's parents and my parents, on the same road in the same town, a mile apart from each other, So then it was I was like, okay, yes, I need to be home. And then I took a position as an insurance agent's general manager, owner of the agency, 6 months after giving birth to my second one. So I was still pumping when I'm in class, to try to manage.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, Sheila. You got to do what you gotta do.
So here I am, I'm working long hours, and my kids are my youngest is falling asleep in her car seat next to me at my desk, and I'm working 12-hour days and so forth. And fortunately, my mom and dad were in the same building that my office was in. But I really wondered, it's like, I'm here for him. And then my husband, he was a firefighter at Wright Pat, Department of Defense. So when he had overtime, he'd be gone for 3 whole days in a row. Mm-hmm. And if I got overtime again, it was 5 days in a row. So it was almost like a single mom with a one weekend trip to Dayton every now and then,
Yeah.
But when they got older, my husband retired early, and then I thought, okay, I can focus on my business, and they don't need me as much, right there, wiping their noses, and everything. But then he became the mom. So then he was taken to all their gymnastics, all their track, and everything for the next, 5 or 6 years. And then I transitioned out of that and was a regular job, 8 to 5. Then I can't get off. I can't get off, gals.
You didn't have the flexibility. Right. And Sheila, that's the thing. There are so many people who are trying to juggle family life and their children and getting them where they need to be. And they do have a career, and they do have to work, and they don't have the flexibility. So I know so many people are resonating with what you're saying. And so, tell everybody what you said to me that made me hit me.
Right. So I was saying, did I do enough? I mean, I regret, in a way, it's like, I don't know. Did I miss too much? Did I not do enough when they were in those teen years and forming who they were and their identity? And I was always there to answer questions when I came home, and then they'd be like, Mom, we have to schedule time with you, Yeah. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. I'm available this time during this time,
I'll pencil you in my schedule. Get in the calendar.
So that's why I'm like, did I do enough?
But see, this is what I'm saying, though. And there's no judgment on you for that. We all do what we feel like we need to do. And, I saw your husband a lot at Visual Fouget, bringing the kids. And you know what I thought? I thought, well, good for her. Good for her. She's doing, there's always someone there who is taking great care of your children. Sean says, Sheila, you gave incredible young ladies. You did,
Aw.
and you did good enough. Good enough. That's awesome.
Thank you, Sean.
So, Stephanie, tell us your background a little bit, and then we're going to get into how it feels when they start getting out of the house.
As far as, I mean, 3 little ones, moved to Ohio 20 years ago, had our 3rd one here, actually had each child in a different state, and then landed here, and this became home base. No family here. So, and then I actually had a career, but, decided to stay home so my husband could build his business. And he had asked me if I, would be willing to do that in order for him to be able to grow his company. So that is the choice that I made and did it with absolutely no regrets whatsoever. Wouldn't change it for the world. But as they started to get older, I worked hard to get to that career. I knew that I wanted to get back into the workforce in some capacity. I felt that it was also important for the kids to see that too. So Sheila, to you, I have a lot of friends who have worked the entire time, and those are some of the most resilient kids I know. So I think either way, like you said, Debbie, there's no judgment. There's no judgment, whether you stay home or you work. I think that it all comes from the time that you do get with your kids.
That's true. That's really well said. I think that's amazing. So, I think about this a lot, like the way we feel when our kids are little, so I'm kind of shifting gears on you guys. So the way we feel when our children are little, and how we feel like we're needed and we're there for them, and as much as we absolutely can be, and love them so much. And then you go through the years, and I mean, do you guys feel, am I on an island myself here when I think that all of a sudden these babies are going to college? And I'm like, how did the warp speed? Like, I've heard the term long nights or long days and short years or something like that when they're little. And then all of a sudden time just blew up and went away. And for me, like I said in the front of this, I wasn't really planning. I was like all in on what they were going to be, and instilling the morals and the love and all the stuff. And then when they got older, I felt like I kind of forgot who I was, and didn't remember to invest back into myself. So if I could give advice to anybody listening right now, it's not selfish to invest in yourself, and it's not selfish to make a decision for you, whether you're going to work or you're going to stay home. It's all for you. And I mean, our women before us have worked so hard to get to the place where we're not judged to be able to have a career like, a man does. So I appreciate all of that. But for me, I just had to go back to the drawing board on who I am, because I did sort of lose myself in the family, and have to then figure out, and I'm doing it now, and I'm enjoying it. And I wouldn't change anything about being home with them or anything like that. I would just remind myself that there is a future after they leave the house. For me, what's it going to be? How do you feel about it, Mindy?
It was different for me because I was so probably too much. I mean, there's helicopter moms, and then there's me. I mean, I was so involved in everything that they did. They were and are my life. I mean, when they went to school, I was their lunch lady and duty aide. That was all through elementary school. Middle school, they would only let me do it once a month. And I'm like, what? Once a month? And then when they were in high school, my husband was their dean of students. And so he was with them every single day of high school. And I was so jealous at that point, because I had that life growing up through, almost all elementary school, and then mostly middle school. And then those 3 would all go off to school together, high school. And I'm like, I'm all by myself now. I love the parts that they are in life. I love, my daughter's going to be 21. My son's going to be 22. So they were literally a year and a week apart. And I love to watch them grow and become these positive, good young men and young women, what they're becoming, and because DNA is real, and everything that they watch us through the years, they start to emulate. And we don't realize it at the time. But there are so many things that they'll say and they'll do. And I'm like, that's just like your dad, or that's just like me. And I don't think sometimes we know how much they are really paying attention, but they are. So it is fun. As much as I love to watch them become their own person, I really do miss the days that I was in total control of them. I was with them every step of the way. There were two hardest things for me as a mom. One was when they got their license. That was so hard to watch them take off in a car without me there, because that's such a dangerous part of life. And two was letting go, was letting them leave home without me being able to be by their side all the time. But it is a part of life, and you just have to trust that how you raise them was the right way. And, they do live what they learn, and they learn what they live. And hopefully you set a good role model.
I love that. And as you're talking, I'm looking at Dear Mom behind you. You hold that up.
Of course I will. Of course. This is my pride and joy.
This is your newest book. It's not your only one, but it's the most recent. And it's called Dear Mom. And you can find it on Amazon. And it is really
That's my mom's signature, Deb. And, as Sheila was talking about her new adventure, Sheila, that's what I'm going through right now is, gosh, more than a year ago, my mom got super, super sick. She is a 6-time cancer survivor. At 89 years old, she had her left arm amputated. And then all at once, she got literally deathly sick. Like, she's now on hospice, and nobody could figure out why. The emergency room, the doctors, the hospitals, nobody knew why she got sick. The cancer doctor said it wasn't the cancer because her scans were clear. And she lost so much weight and got so dehydrated. We were literally spoon feeding her ice chips, Jell-O, anything that she could hold and get down. And she has made such a rebound. I mean, on a year ago on July 3rd, and Debbie, you know the story, July 3rd, not like a month ago, but a year ago, the director of hospice looked at her and said, rally the troops. She has 24 hours left to live. But she is a 92-year-old strong Italian woman. She's like, I ain't ready to go yet. And I'm like, you're not ready to go yet. So we have rallied around her, and she's just the epitome of strength. This is what this book is about. Yeah. Every single chapter starts out with a letter to mom. And then I included so many people in it writing about their own moms, or as a mom, writing about different stories.
Yeah, that's what was really cool about it, because you have all these different people writing their own passages about their mother or their perspective of being a mom themselves. It's a really good book. And you guys, just so everyone knows, Mindy's mom just went to the Barry Manilow concert. And
I took her to Barry.
Was 24 hours away from death last July, a year ago.
Yeah. So don't let someone tell you when it's your time. Only God really knows. And believe in your heart and follow your heart. I knew it wasn't her time yet. She didn't want it to be her time yet. So, you just do everything you can. And that's why, Sheila, I so appreciate what you're doing now. And to be honest with you, ladies, as hard as it was for me to kind of watch my kids leave and I don't get to take care of them anymore, I think that's why God made my mom sick, because now I'm taking care of her.
Yeah, and you know what? That's another like topic of itself, is as your kids get older, your parents are also aging, and you start taking care of the older parents. So, there's a lot that women, especially, I'm not saying men don't, but we as moms, we take on a lot. And then you have the guilt trip too sometimes of, I hope I'm doing enough. And it's just a whole thing. Lynn Serrano says she remembers that. Producer from the back's into it. But I just feel like, just jump in here, you guys, because I don't know who wants to, if anything's on your heart, say it. But I just feel like all of you guys know what it feels like to, and the viewers and the listeners right now knows that have kids, that certain stages of life, whether that's when they're young, you feel like that's tough. And then they go through the teenage years and they can be kind of grumpy with you and maybe get into some problems and things like that. And then you think that's rough. And for me, definitely the most difficult part was watching them walk out that door and go live on campus and go to school. Not because I wanted them to go. That's what I wanted them to do. But it was a very like, oh, this is what it feels like. Wow. Oh, okay. And so Sheila, did you feel like, oh, good, go. I mean, some people do.
Yeah, you were asking me about that earlier. Yeah. And I was like, yes, go do your thing,
Yeah.
But then the hard thing for me, and it's taken me quite a few times to learn from them, because they're telling me, Mom, I didn't ask for your advice.
Oh.
I just want you to listen. Can you just listen and not give me advice? So that has been the hard part for me, because I still want to instill in them what I know, what my nuggets are. But they're like, no, we just want to live our life right now, Mom. And I'm just talking to you. So I think I'm finally transitioned to that point. Like, okay, but if I do get overstepped, they will tell me, Mom, too much. I'm like, okay.
Well, that's the thing I think Mindy was trying to say also. It's like when they're younger, you're really in control of, no, you're not doing that. You're going to get hurt, or, and then as they get older, it's really difficult to learn how to back up and not try to make all of their decisions, and they don't like it either. And that's a good point though, Sheila, that your kids, and you listened to them. Listen, because my kids tell me all the time, Mom, can we just tell you something and you not make it into a learning, like a lesson?
Yes.
They're like, we just really want you to listen to us and then not give us, what does Dalton call it? Debbie disclaimers.
But that's so hard to do. It's so hard because, and we can watch the decisions that they're making, knowing in our heart of hearts that they're making the wrong decision. But it's like, sometimes they have to learn stuff like that on their own. As much as we want to say, listen, do it this way, we know we've been there, but they don't want to listen to Mom or Dad. And even though we really know it's not going to work out the way they think it's going to. And my husband reminds me all the time, listen, sometimes there's things that they have to do and learn on their own. And sometimes you have to hit rock bottom in order to make those corrections and start living the right way. It's hard for me as a mom to let that happen. I don't want to see them fail, but sometimes failure is a good thing.
It can be. Yeah. You fail forward. People say that all the time, if it's you protecting them all the time, they just don't know, and they will never know until they learn it on their own. But Stephanie, how are you feeling about all this?
Well, some great advice that was given to me was, ask your kids before they start, do you need me to listen or do you need me to help?
Oh, yeah.
And that sets the tone right there, because a lot of times I know I always want to jump in and, and ever since that advice has been given to me, you watch their whole body language change. And 90% of the time I just need you to listen, and then as the conversation starts up, then they may be like, well, what do you think? But just having that tool of, do you need me to listen or do you need my help? So
great advice.
And
I hope I can just remember that next time.
It's hard. It's really hard. And another great piece of advice that was given to me is, so many times, you think of it as a roller coaster with your kids when they're going through something and you want to strap right in next to them and ride the roller coaster, but instead just stand on the platform and be like, I'm here, as you're watching them go through this super hard time that they're going to get through it and they're going to get to the other side. And as a mother, especially, oh my gosh, I want to strap right in and be like, this is awful. Like, this is, instead just kind of taking a step back, standing there on the platform. I'm here, and watching them get through it and knowing that how much confidence they're going to build when they do get through it. And that I didn't join in their chaos.
That's a great point, that they feel empowered by making that decision on their own, and mommy is not there making it happen for them. That's a really good point. And Jill Haller put up there we go. Great advice. Such a struggle when mamas just want to make it better. Right, Jill, 100%. And Jill, you have your baby going off to college, so I wonder how you're feeling right now. I'll check in with you later. I just think that it isn't talked about enough with moms that that first of all, this great advice that you guys are all putting out there, and Stephanie, I'm going to use that. Do you need me to listen or do you need advice? So I'll remember that, make a note of that. But
Yeah, we don't write it down.
it's a matter of being able to tell young women too, that have the younger kids, that, you're preparing, if you're doing this job so that they fly away and start their life, and it's what we want. But even though, because I think a lot of times people, and I did it myself, like, what's wrong with people being sad, or what's going on here? But when you get to that point, just like they say, you don't know until you know. And when you're going through it, it's like, wow, it's just such a disconnect. And then when, my daughter is the youngest, and when she went off to college, I was like, wow. I mean, I cried. I missed the life of the house. I mean, it's like I invested all my life, I was also, Mindy, the room mom. I drove all the kids to all the field trips. I did book it at school every day, all the things. And so that was my life. And then when I watched my life, walk into college, I was like, yeah, you go. Oh my God, what are we going to do? It was like that. So I just want to say it's awesome though, because here I have Sheila with us who said, I'm fine. It's great that you're like that. So, and then
I'm going to tattletale on myself a little bit.
Okay.
In that move-in day, college move-in day. I'm the mom that is like grabbing the tissues and going around the side going, I don't want to. And they both, because I did it with both of them. And they're like, Mom, you're embarrassing me.
Well, they're probably not used to, you're not like a big crier probably either.
Right.
So that was like making them feel weird.
Yeah. Right. So that is the moment that did get me. It's like, oh, they are changing. They are going to experience different things. They're not going to be this. That's what went through my head. They're not going to be the same in 6 months, in a year, in 4 years. They're going to be different people. Now, granted, they're threads, and I'm so proud. I will say I'm proud of both my girls. I'm very proud. One's in Philadelphia, one's in Greensboro, North Carolina. So they are living their lives and they're doing it very well. But they change.
Yeah, we grow up and we get experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I know. And so where's everyone's okay, so Mindy, I know both of yours are in Ohio.
Yeah, I would die if they left me. And my daughter is the starting shortstop for Ohio State, and she had so many different opportunities to go play at Rutgers, to go play at Illinois, go play at different places. And as she was making these choices in her head, I kept thinking, she had better pick Ohio State because we live 20 minutes from that campus. And thank goodness she did. I'm just so thankful and so grateful that she's in my own backyard so we can watch all of her games. It's a big deal. When I told her when she was trying to make the decision of where she was going to go and where she was getting recruited, I'm not going to make that decision for her. Obviously, she's got to make that. But I remember telling her, listen, at some point, you're going to play your first collegiate softball game. Just think to yourself, when they announce your name in the stadium for the very first time and you're at Rutgers and they announce starting shortstop, Cammy Quartercracks are now up to bat, Cammy Quartercracks, and look around the field, who's there that you know? And then they announce it at Buckeye Field. And you think and you look around that stadium and you have all your friends, your family, just filling that stadium. So I think that's why she went and picked Ohio State.
I was like, I'm not going to make your decision for you, but I'm going to give you a real good scenario.
That's right. But I'm just so glad because home matters. And yes, sometimes people, you guys are probably all going to disagree with me. I went to Ohio State and I lived at home and I commuted. And so many people think, oh, you don't grow up, you don't get the real life. You don't get to sample real life unless you move out into the dorms or live on an apartment. I never felt that way. I thought, you know what, I'll live on my own in good time when I get my first job. There's so many people that use dorm rooms and all that stuff to party all the time. I didn't have that freedom to do that. I literally had to go to school, and it was like a job because you got up, you drove yourself to campus fighting regular traffic, and then had to park and walk to class. It was kind of a chore. So, I just never bought into the fact that you don't grow up unless you live in a dorm. I don't believe that at all.
And you know what? That's who you are. And I love that about you. You know what you think, and no one's going to bully you into thinking anything else. I love that. But I wanted to ask you guys, if you were to go back and do anything over, would you change anything? Anyone, Stephanie?
I don't think I would, something Mindy had touched on earlier when she said they're always watching us. I think I wish I would have maybe paid closer attention to that maybe when they were younger. But they never stop watching you until we're gone. I mean, they are always, I still watch my parents, right? I
Right.
mean, we're still paying attention. I think the roles just flip as our parents get older and we kind of become the parent, right? So I think if I could go back and change anything, maybe just have had that advice that I gave earlier. I wish I would have had when they were younger. But that comes later in life, So no, I don't.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. What about you, Mindy? Anything?
Probably, Stephanie's saying that they watch us. Do you guys have Life 360? Because I watch them all the time, even when they're not with me. And that is like my favorite toy. I'm like, whoever invented Life 360, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And it is like a safety thing. Let's say they get in a wreck and they're on the side of the road. I can see right where they are. But my husband thinks I'm crazy. It'll be like 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm like, get home already, leave the bar and go home. And I can't sleep until they're home. But I think if I were to do anything differently, you guys probably think I'm so crazy, and I probably am. But maybe if I had to start and do over again, I might have more kids. I don't know if 2 was enough. They were back to back. A year and a week apart. So they left home almost the same time. Yeah. And so maybe I would have had one a couple years later, but we started later in life too. I had kids a lot after most of my friends. So I was the old mom.
I love it. Mindy, you could have had 100. You are such a good mom. You really are.
No, that's not true. I made so many mistakes. And I look at these, I'm like, oh my gosh, I handled that so wrong. Can we take that moment back? And we can't, because as much as our kids are learning from us, we're learning from us too. And I love this conversation because I've learned stuff from Stephanie. I've learned stuff from Sheila, and Debbie, you and I transfer back and forth things. It's we all take things from one another, and that's okay to borrow and learn from one another, because it's not easy. The hardest thing we can do, but the most rewarding thing, is to parent, is to be a mom or a dad, because it's just no right or wrong way of doing it. You learn as you go.
Oh, it's so true. And when you said that, it's struck a nerve, because I was like, I can't tell you, at least a handful of times that I've told my kids, gosh, I'm sorry that I'm an emotional person. I know, shocker. But I'll be like, oh my God, and it's just like, sometimes I have to say, gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm just so emotionally connected to you, and I love you so much. Sometimes I have an emotional reaction to things, and I need to handle that better, because I don't, there's not a real handbook for how all of our children are different and we're all different. So even if there was a handbook on how to be the best mom in the world, I got to be the best mom I can be for my individual and unique children. And so no one knows how to do it. You just go through and you figure it out as you go. And I'm never afraid to apologize about, gosh, I shouldn't have done that. But it made me think too, when you're talking about being a helicopter mom, when Dalton went to the University of Cincinnati, a nurse, he has allergies, nut allergies. Like he could die. Like it's a big deal. And so I had to he had to have his epinephrine, his EpiPen and all that stuff. And I was in the nurse's station and I was telling her, I'm like, this, and here's the paperwork, and he needs to carry this one. And she goes, oh, we've got a helicopter mom in here. And I thought, it made me a little, I was thinking, lady, this is life or death. It's not like, doctors need to match his socks. Come on, this is a big deal. But when Dalton went to college, Tori looked at Dalton and said, have fun. I'm stuck with her. All of her attention is going to be on me now, because she's that's awesome. That's her personality. She loved her mother, but it's, if I were to go back, it would be number one, figure out myself and know that I do need to have an idea of what I want to do and invest a little bit into myself in that way, because it was just all about them. And I would try to take some of the emotion out of my responses, because that people don't ever do. No one, your children, your friends, no one does well with overreaction to anything. It's just not good. So I would work on that. And I'm a lot better. I feel like I'm, maybe it's because you get, you know, when they're grown up and they're gone, it's a real reflection time too. And when you get to spend time with them, it's like you make sure that the moments are, so that's another thing.
Matter.
Yeah, you know, living more in the moment.
Mm.
But when the kids are little and you're always rushing to school, you're rushing to sports, you're rushing here, you're doing that. I would have rolled back that too and thought, no, you know what? This is a day, and because time goes so fast. And the only way to really slow it down is to live right now in the moment and not be racing to the next place. You still have to get there, but I don't have to feel that racing thought in my brain. What about you guys?
Well, I'm right there with you, Debbie, with the emotions and responses. I'm like, oh yeah, that was me too, you know, and my regret or what would I do different?
Yeah.
Because of my business and career mentality, I really treated them like a little business person, you know, and I didn't have the, I wish there was a class at that time that I could have taken that says, okay, this is how you can teach homework. This is how you can work with different personalities to have them, to motivate them to do what they need to do for the homework. There's a lot of homework at Flagey. Oh my gosh, you got a lot of homework.
Oh my gosh.
Totally different than a public school. You know, there wasn't any, it's like, what happened to the homework? But yeah, I did not have, it's not that I didn't have the empathy or compassion. I didn't have the skill sets. I had a business to business. This is the way it is. Why don't, okay, this proves this proves that. What's the problem?
Yeah. Right. I mean, you know what? I love your transparency, Sheila, because this is true. I mean, we all have different things that we can work on, or we can look back and say, wish I would have done this a little differently. So you had business partners.
Right. They'll tell you that.
You had a thriving business. It was a family event. I love it. What about you, Steph? Did I already ask you this question? It's really different with 3 other people. So we are actually in this. It's almost 45 minutes already. And I looked at the clock and got really distracted because I'm like, I don't want it to be over yet. We have to come back and talk about topics. But, you know, in a nutshell, right? At the end of the day, when we are with our kids and we're going through different stages of life with them, I know none of us, wait a minute, Stephanie, are any of your kids out of state?
Yes. My oldest lives in Texas. He's in Austin.
Okay. Is he working there, or is he still
graduated, working?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how's that?
That's different. It's a very fun place to visit. I'm glad he picked a very fun place to go visit, but it's different. You know what? He's happy. And at the end of the day, that's what I really want for all 3 of the kids is, you know, wherever they land. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd like them all to just be a block away from me forever. Yeah. But I also want them to be happy and to go figure it out.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, it's very different.
And then you have all boys.
I do.
And where are the others?
Brandon, my middle is finishing up at Miami, and I have a senior in high school.
That's right. So you still, okay. So you still have one son at home. So how's that going to be when he
says he's going south. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, make sure it's a good place to visit. Steph.
Right? Just pick a good place to visit. We'll see. We have a little bit of time.
Well,
I love what you said about being in the moment. Because when you have a kiddo that moves out of state, boy, you really learn to be in the moment, because time is so limited now. So
that's so true, because you can't be there all the time. I mean, you live in Ohio and then you've got kids other places. You have a senior in high school. And so I have told my daughter, when we talk, I'm like, wherever, she's finishing law school this year. And she's like, I'm not really sure. I think I might stay in Columbus for a while, but I may want to move. And I'm just like, I'm not going to try. I can't hold her back because she's feisty and she'll do what she wants, but I want to encourage her to spread her wings and go wherever she thinks the opportunity will be for her. It's pains me to think about it, but I get what you're saying, Stephanie. We have to allow them to fly and go and experience, and just, even if it might not be what's going to be the best for them, they'll figure it out and then they'll be back.
Exactly. Exactly. I think he's really, one thing when they move away, they appreciate more, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
They appreciate more. They appreciate their time with you more. Time is together is just different now. So, which is really nice. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to, just to finish up, I want everyone to tell, this is my thoughts. How do you give someone advice, or maybe we're trying to find the advice ourselves for, wait, they come back, Joe Ingram. That's so funny. And earlier it was cracking me up. John Horton's watching from Chicago, and he said, you go from chauffeur to no fur.
That's true.
That's awesome. But I just being able to understand, to be able to find the beauty in every stage of our child's life, and as the stages that we also go through, we learn, we grow, we go through menopause, all the stuff, aging parents, and to deal with everything and all the changes. What I keep telling myself is, find the beauty in that moment. Appreciate they're healthy, they're in school, they're trying to better their life. These are all the things that I tell myself to get myself into a place of appreciation and gratitude for where they are. And even though I loved it. I loved it when they were at home. I loved being the room mom. I loved all those things. It brought me joy. And so what can you do to find joy now, Debbie? And that's the path I'm on. And it's always family first for me. But in the process, I gotta fill my cup up with that, in other ways as well. So that's my final thoughts. Mindy, what do you want to tell us before we sign off? Oh, okay. How about Sheila? Just keep Sheila up there.
Okay. Well,
Final thoughts.
I'm going to take it one step forward in that we do, as a caregiver for my dad, it does shift, and life does shifts. And then we, as the children, do have an opportunity to enjoy those moments with our moms and our dads. So I'll leave it at that. That's the next step, but it's always the moments. Appreciate the moments. We don't know what tomorrow brings. Yeah.
That's the truth. Okay, Stephanie, what you thinking for your final thoughts?
It's a journey, and it's a journey that's going to fleet so fast, and in the crazy times, just know they're going to come and go. And before you know it, you're going to be in the stage we're in, and the next stage is a great stage too. And you get to kind of focus on you and what's next for you, and that can be really exciting. So as you're watching your kids grow up and move on, that's exciting, but there's also exciting times ahead for you as well.
I love that, Stephanie. Thank you for that little reminder. And then Mindy Dreyer is on mute.
Because the dogs were barking. My two kids are gone. My 2 kids are gone, but I still have 4 dogs that I take care of. And so I love that. You know what? I would say, honestly, no regrets. Whatever you do, yes, we're going to make mistakes, but look back and think to myself and yourself, have no regrets, because things will change along the way. And if we think to ourselves, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it that way. Follow your head, follow your heart. If they both agree, then you're making the right decision. And I am so thankful that I am my mom's number one caregiver right now. I never saw this coming. She was so, as older, I mean, she's 92 now. She's going to be 93 in November. She was so active before this happened a little more than a year ago. This came out of left field, but I'm so thankful that I am there for her. And I'm also thankful that my kids are watching me be there for her, because they have said, Mom, we're so proud of you. And I hope that in turn, if I get to that phase, my kids will be there for me. Everything, guys, comes full circle. It's so weird, but it does. Have no regrets.
That's beautiful. And that gave me teary-eyed, because I was around when everything went south with your mom, and you were that you were there for her every second of the day. And then
it's not easy, Debbie. It was so not easy. I mean, I was staying at her house 5 nights a week, and it was just, but you do what you have to do for love. And then I always tell people, you know what? If roles were reversed, she'd be taking care of me, no questions asked. And so how can I not do that for her? We owe it to our parents. And so, I mean, we're moms, but we're also daughters.
Yes.
Right.
You're right. Before we leave, Joe Ingram, he's out in the LA area, and he always has something funny to say. I don't know if this is funny or not. That's why people use my picture as their phone wallpaper. So you can look at your phone to find joy and gratitude. That's it, Joe. Thank you. I'll make you my screensaver. Joe, you did the best you can, just like your parents did. You don't know what you don't know. Very good.
You don't know what you don't know.
You actually got in there and got a little emotional. Andrea Freiberger Harris. Hey, Andrea, I encouraged my daughter to follow her dream, and now she works for Duke University in North Carolina and just bought a house. I'm so proud of her, and FaceTime and of awesome. It helps with the distance apart. Yes, FaceTiming and that's so true. Technology can be good for that reason. And Jill says, love listening to you wise ladies this evening. Thank you. Thank you, Jill. And thanks to everyone who's listened and maybe didn't comment, because we do appreciate you being here and tuning in, and everyone that comes on replay. We might have to just make this a once every couple months thing and pick a topic to drill in. So I want to say thank you to Stephanie, Mindy, and Sheila for being here. And if you want to just hang tight real quick, I'll see you in the green room. And bye to everyone, and see you next Wednesday. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
That floats around me, keeping me